I want to conduct a very quick survey, and it doesn't matter if you're watching this video immediately after it's been published or 3 or 4 years into the future. I want you to tell me in the comments what first comes to mind when I say the next phrase. X99. Got it? Okay, tell me in the comments what you first thought of when I said that. For me personally, X99 means expensive. It's enthusiast grade, right? So Intel delegates that specific platform for people who aren't afraid to spend extra dough. But what if I told you could put together an enthusiast grade PC for under $1,000? Would you think I was crazy? I thought I was crazy too until I actually looked at the PC part picker list that I had put together, and I was a little shocked. Now there were a few compromises I had to make, but they're not substantial. The video card obviously was something we had to cut back on just because our processor alone was a little over a third of the entire PC price, but that's okay. I mean, that's something that if you just wanted to have a powerful processor for video editing or something along those lines, then you would be fine with the rig that we have here. So let's go ahead and run through the parts that are selected in this particular list, and maybe we can nitpick at some things that you might be able to change. First up on our list is the Intel i7-5820K, and I say obviously because, well, it's by far the cheapest processor you can buy for the X99 platform. The next step up would be the 5930K. You'd be paying around $200 more for a processor that would only give you a few extra PCIe lanes, and in a $1,000 PC build budget, you really don't have room for SLIing or cross-firing, even though those aren't really words. Really can't do any of that with this budget. So I would only advocate for the 5930K if you plan on doing some pretty hardcore SLIing or crossfiring. Again, I said it again, those aren't words, but just, you know what I mean. The 5820K has 6 solid 22nm cores and 12 threads thanks to hyper-threading. I wouldn't recommend this CPU solely for gamers. I think it's steered more towards the editor and maybe the person who streams in 1080 or 1440p. This CPU would be more ideal for you, but if you're just a gamer, then you could pretty much just disregard this entire setup. This is just, what if? If you had $1,000 you wanted to spend on something that you think would be useful for you, if you're an editor or if you're a game streamer, this CPU would come highly recommended here in the studio. The processor itself, however, does not come with a cooler, and that's why we've chosen the Hyper 212 Evo to cool things down a bit. At only $28 and, its ability to allow for a decent overclock, the Hyper 212 Evo is pretty much a no-brainer in this case. Now onto the motherboard. Things can get pretty expensive when it comes to X99 motherboards, so that made our job fairly simple. Just find the cheapest one that had all the features we wanted. We wanted an ATX size motherboard, and that's what we got here. We didn't want a micro ATX or even that ASRock ITX motherboard for the X99 platform, just because if you're buying an enthusiast grade chip, you want to have more than one PCIe lane. Even micro ATX, with the 5820K that'll be just fine, but if you ever plan on buying, I don't know, like a 5960X and you want those extra PCIe lanes, you're going to want those extra PCIe slots as well to be able to, 3- and 4-way crossfire, something ridiculous like that. So that option is available to you if you decide to go this venture, and besides, I think this is actually cheaper than any micro or ITX motherboard out there anyway, so we get full size and we get the lowest price. That's pretty nice. Up next is RAM. Now our CPU takes advantage of DDR4 in quad channel, so that pretty much forces us to buy 4 separate DIMMs and not 2 DIMMs that we would normally buy on any regular platform. I say regular, but you know what I mean. So DDR4, and we chose some Geil Super Loose. I don't know if it's called Geil or Geil, G-E-I-L, whatever. You can look it up on the PC part picker list. But they're white DIMMs, and they actually have LEDs in them, so that's pretty cool. And it's $74.99, and you're getting 16 gigabytes, which is pretty much the bare minimum that I would recommend for an X99 platform. Up next is storage, and ADATA's 120 gigabyte solid state drive is pretty much a no-brainer for me. I purchased one of these for practically every build I put together, and they've all been very reliable, haven't had a single problem with one yet, so until that day comes, I will continue to prioritize my SSDs with ADATA up there near the top. We've also gone with a 1TB Western Digital Caviar Blue hard disk drive for general storage because Western Digital is the way to go when it comes to hard drives, and 1TB should be plenty for most of your movies and clips and some games as well, some fairly large games like GTA 5. It's a very large game. Up next is the video card, and this is where I said that we did have to compromise a bit in order to keep the total price below $1,000, and we've gone with the Sapphire Radeon R9 380 4GB graphics card. If you plan on, scaling things up a lot, maxing out your games in 1080p, you're going to want that 4 gigs of VRAM, and this card will definitely be able to take it all on without any problem. So that's what we've chosen for the video card. Of course, you can completely just swap this card out for whatever you'd like. Personally, I would recommend a GTX 970 at least, or an R9 390 at least in this particular rig, just because your CPU is not going to bottleneck anything that you throw at unless you do something crazy like 3 or 4 way SLI, GTX 980 Ti's or something. But for my budget conscious consumers out there, this rig should be just fine. But if you got the extra $100, I do recommend an R9 390 or a GTX 970. Up last on our list, well, apart from the case, is the power supply, and we've chosen an EVGA 600 watt 80 plus bronze power supply for this particular rig. I have used these in the past. They are very reliable and very quiet. You won't be disappointed. 600 watts will be more than plenty for this PC, even under full load. Now, back to the case for a second. I have noticed that when most people put together some pretty expensive rigs and they want to keep it under a certain price point, they compromise on the case because they say, well, that's completely subjective, so I'm just going to put a pretty cheap case on there. That way I can keep my price below my target. Well, nay, not for me. I have chosen a Fractal Define S because I'm a baller and I was able to keep the price under $1,000 even with this relatively expensive case. So yeah, you could buy something like this, you could buy something like an NZXT S340, which may even be in the list later on if the price for the Fractal Design S goes up, but you can interchange that. You have plenty of room for a decent case, and that's what I wanted to make sure was available to you all if you decided to put together any particular rig that looked similar to this. I know you can't see the TV because it's pretty bright, but yeah, the rig that you're looking at right now, you could swap any case out for any other case that's relatively expensive, and you're going to be a-okay there. So you're welcome. No compromises here in the studio for this particular rig. So with all of that being said, be sure to let me know in the comments below if you even think that an X99 based rig is even viable anymore, especially considering the fact that the 6700K from Skylake is out and rivals for the most part the 5820K in most tasks. Be sure to like the video if you liked it, dislike it for whatever reason if you disliked it, and let me know in the comments below what you would like to see in the future. This is Science Studio. Thanks for learning with us.